For the past 2 weeks, I've been playing quite a bit of Age of Mythology and I've been having so much fun with the game. I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for an easy strategy game to get into. But the god selections are a bit interesting. We have the classic Greeks, the always welcomed Egyptians, and the always mandatory Norse gods. And lastly, we have the Atlanteans. Wait, like Atlantis Atlanteans? Like with the underwater city? I'm no historian, but I don't think Atlantis was even a real place. Upon double checking, yeah, Atlantis was made up by Plato in his works. So why are the Atlanteans here? Granted, I do love playing as them, but why are they here? Because I feel like there's another pantheon of gods that belong there instead. Maybe a pantheon of gods that's still worshipped by over 1.2 billion people to this day. Perhaps one that is the oldest recorded religion in human history. If you haven't caught on yet, I'm referring to Hinduism. Hinduism is a religion I feel just doesn't get talked about enough in the Western world. On a monthly basis, I'll hear something related to Christianity, Islam, and occasionally Buddhism, or something inspired by Buddhist figures like Sun Wukong in the media I consume. But I've gone years without hearing anything about Hinduism or anything related to it. In fact, I rarely see or hear anything related to Indian culture outside of their food. And personally, I think that's a dang shame. That's why I believe we need more Indian and Hindu representation in gaming and in media in general. And yes, I know they have Bollywood in India, but I'm referring to the Western side of things. And for full transparency, I'm not Indian, nor do I know a lot about Indian mythologies and cultures. But I feel like my lack of knowledge about India or anything related to it is exactly the reason why they need more representation in Western media. Because I believe the media we consume doesn't need to be profound or vastly change our worldviews, but it should at least expose us to something new every now and then. For instance, and this is going to be very embarrassing for me to admit, but when I was younger, I didn't know that Hong Kong was actually an island. It's more like a bunch of smaller islands that includes a piece of mainland China. But I just assumed it was a big city somewhere in China. But then I played this game called Sleeping Dogs, and it was set in Hong Kong. And yes, while the game does let you become a kung fu super cop and execute people by throwing them on swordfish, the game also taught me a lot of surface level things about Hong Kong. I didn't learn anything crazy from the game, but just being put in that setting helped me expand my worldview just a little bit. And sometimes that's all you need to start seeing the world as more than just a place that you are currently living in. And it's not just for cultural exposure that I think Hinduism needs more representation. I also find the religion and mythology of Hinduism to just be really cool and interesting. For example, one of my favorite stories from the mythology is that of Kali's origin. Keep in mind there are many different versions of the story, but I'm going to tell you the one I like the most. To begin, Durga, the goddess associated with strength, destruction, and motherhood, was fighting a bunch of asuras, sometimes referred to as demons. Typically, this would be a very easy fight for Durga, but every time a drop of that demon's blood hits the ground, it spawns another copy of itself. This caused the fight to go on for a really long time. Needless to say, Durga was not very happy about this long drawn-out fight. After a while, Durga became so upset she reached a new level of anger never seen before by humans nor the gods. And through her fury manifested the goddess Kali. And after manifesting, Kali immediately decapitated the demon and drank all of his blood so he could no longer clone himself. And I absolutely love that story. It gives me the same feelings I got while reading the stories of Hercules. I love it when a story tells or shows our hero that they can't resolve an issue through violence, so they proceed to resolve that issue with an unreasonable amount of violence. But moving on, another reason why we need more representation of India and Hinduism is that we've had games in the past that included these elements and they were all amazing in their own rights. Take Far Cry 4 for example. When the game first came out, it was criticized for just being Far Cry 3 in terms of gameplay and story, but no one could deny that pagan men and the setting of Karat were fantastic. And while Far Cry 3 still remains my favorite story-wise, since you play as a rich kid who slowly becomes the world's greatest guerrilla fighter, while doing a ridiculous amount of drugs, and Voss is nice, kind, caring, gentle mentor who helps him out on his journey. Despite all that, Far Cry 4 still has my favorite setting because there's nothing else like Karat out there. Everything from the unique wildlife to the massive snow-covered mountains in the distance to the unique architecture. It's a beautiful mix of India, Tibet, and Nepal blending seamlessly together. With both Buddhist and Hindu elements mixed together, it's simply incredible. And I don't usually say this often nowadays, but good job Ubisoft. You guys created a wonderful setting with this one. Also, other games like Smite also feature Hindu gods such as Shiva. And lastly, Asura's Wrath is another example. I don't have too much to say about it besides that it's a great game and highly underrated. And its Buddhist and Hindu inspired designs make it truly one of a kind. There's nothing else that looks remotely close to it. To wrap it all up, I think it would be a creative boost for Western games to incorporate more elements from India and Hinduism. We would have more unique games to look forward to like Asura's Wrath and overall more interesting experiences that could expand all of our worldviews. And that's it. Thanks for watching. If you know any other games that include Hindu elements, please leave a comment. I'd love to know. And again, thanks for watching.